What is communication? In this case, I'm talking about interaction between people who influence each other at the same time, and all this happens in some specific context. So basically how we behave and how we are with others. Here's one picture, one situation, just as an example. This looks like a discussion, but we could also talk about group communication or public speaking, for example. What's interesting here is that because we are humans, we bring our background to every situation. Our thoughts and feelings, experiences, our attitudes, prejudices, and personal goals. And we also have a cultural background, which is not only our nationality or ethnic background, but also our family history, what kind of environment you've grown up in, and how the communication culture was in that environment. You've probably been a member of different kinds of subcultures related to hobbies, studies, work, and social life. And you have a self-image and also perceptions of others. And all this matters when you communicate. When defining communication, it's important to remember that it works both ways. All participants are communicating, sending and receiving, creating meanings and giving feedback. And usually there are some distractions. For instance, you're in a hurry, there's noise or maybe some language issues. And of course there are contexts. And I would like to emphasize them. We do not communicate in a vacuum. On the contrary, there's always the physical environment and the cultural context. And within the context, you can take a look at norms and roles and power dynamics and other relations. As an example, at work, we might have a situation where we're trying to solve a problem with our team, and then the situation is defined by the physical environment, different roles, and the specific communication culture there. For instance, there are norms that guide our behavior and define what's normal and okay and what's not. And sometimes you're sitting in a bar or a coffee shop with your friends and you're just hanging out, and then naturally the context is very different. Okay, so we've defined communication in a pretty complex way. And also one way of defining is to look at verbal and nonverbal communication. Verbal communication means the ways we use language and what kind of meanings we create. I think it's especially interesting, once again, to take a look at contexts. We speak very differently in different situations. We accommodate our verbal style. You could say that we manage different verbal systems in order to adapt ourselves to different communication cultures. We might speak very differently, for example, in an academic context, in working life, or at home with our family. Whatever the context is, I think it's important to try to be as clear as possible so that your message is easy to understand. And usually your message is clear if you use informal and, natural spoken language. Okay, and then about nonverbal communication. We have gestures and facial expressions. We have posture and all kinds of movement. We have distance and how you use the space and time and how you locate yourself in the space. Also where you're looking and eye contact. And touching is also one form of nonverbal communication. And then we also have nonverbal elements in our spoken communication, the so-called paralanguage, the tone of your voice, the stress you give to words and phrases, pauses, rhythm, and volume. So we can deliver a verbal message in many ways, depending on our nonverbal expression. Hey, thank you. Or, hey, thank you. Okay, so with nonverbal communication, we often emphasize things, we describe things, and we express our emotions. So it's not only for making your expression lively, it's actually for creating meanings. So communication works both ways. It's contextual. It happens in a specific situation and context. And when we're talking about human face-to-face interaction, it usually includes verbal and nonverbal communication.